Yo. All right, so just wanted to give a quick account of today a little bit. Um, I got up about I don't know, 2 something, took my shower, sat down at went and got my coffee, sat down at the computer and immediately got right as I sat and got situated and started getting clicking things on the internet, I started getting messages from Joel. This has actually been somewhat common with people, like with a few of the people that are my friends. Can I say that I have friends? I'm not sure, but the people that I would consider friends, particularly my two close friends, Emilio Longoria and Joel Macaluso. But it's happened also with Roberto Triolo, who is, if I have some friends from playing soccer over the past couple of years, he would be one of them. Um, and so that's happened before with Roberto, where I sit down to start my day, and that's immediately when I get my text, and I'm like a text from him or a message or something, and I'm not on a regular person's schedule, if that makes sense. So my day is like 8 hours off your average person's day start time at least, which is why it feels a bit strange to me. Though obviously there could be variables there that I'm not taking into consideration, but it just feels like like Joel waited until I woke up and sat down and started my day here on Monday to message me and or to respond because we had been texting back and forth a little bit the past few days. And his messages were about or are about AI and stuff. And um, one of the things that I noticed is he sent me these books that are authored by who he believes it's an anonymous pseudonym, but the pseudonyms goes by at least one of several of the books are by a guy named Jamie Flux. And so I immediately, whenever I hear the name Jamie these days, it's like, oh, Alessandro Ambrosio's fake husband, baby daddy, who was one of the men that she used specifically. In fact, she used him specifically to start this whole thing of men that he is the guy. Jamie is the guy that raised my children, Anja and Noah, and that exactly at midnight, exactly 2,520 days ago, or 7 years, uh, she broke up with him and started this chain of men with Nicolo Odie, then Rich Lee, now Buck Palmer, of men that she's jumping to publicly in order to, honestly, psychologically abuse me. If Anja and Noah Ambrosio are my children, which to me, every indication is that they are, in fact, my biological children, these are just men being used in a, you know, evil capacity to make me feel bad because she's holding my kids hostage. These kids that she force bred out of me without my permission. And then these men are like the replacement fathers that she's bonding my children to in order to hurt me, right? Which is, I mean, it makes sense of Jezebel in Revelation. Like, this would make sense of that character, what Alessandra Ambrosio is doing. That's why I think she's Jezebel. Um, and my guess is these men are sexually abusing my children, or I guess it could be so normalized to them at this point that they don't consider it abuse, but the idea of the fact it is that they haven't met their father and they've been raised against their father, me, you know what I mean, their biological father, that the kids have been raised with the specific intention of hurting me. You know what I mean? Like they were bred out of me, and then the whole point is to raise kids that hate me in order to hurt me. And I don't hate my biological children if they are in fact my biological children, which I think they are. I think they are, whether other people do or not, and that's even what like kind of my point with what I wanted to talk about with Joel and Emilio. But I'll get to that in a moment. Is that that's I'm just saying that's really evil, and based on how Revelation reads at the fourth church from Revelation 2, Thyatira or Thyatira or Thuatira, which again is one in Strong's Concordance is one word off the word daughter. So my guess is this started in 2000 well, I think it started before 2007, but like they got to the point of you can't go back in 2007. Like you can't take what you've done back once you birth my children into the world. Um, Also, partially because even if they are killed, I can get a DNA match and prove what they've done. So, they can't go back on what they've done at this point. And so, um, another thing with what Joel has sent is he's basically sent these books, which his claim is they seem incredibly like it's he's basically saying like he thinks AI is writing these books because they're considerably more advanced than actually I'll just pull this up. But basically I'll pull up the conversation. I'm not going to post this on YouTube, at least not publicly, not currently, but I do want to kind of record my entire reality so I can explain what's going on with me so that probably at some point, when something finds a record of my reality, if people aren't watching me like the Truman Show, if something like I don't know an AI that is hyper powerful finds this at some point, it will be able to make sense of what's going on and have my perception as like a viewpoint that a lens to view my reality through. But let's see. Hold on. Okay, so basically the other day I kind of reached out to Joel. I hadn't sent him anything since August 30th, and even before then we haven't really been talking too much, right? Um, and I asked him like, "You still alive?" And he said what he said here, just coding, trying to make a girl happy. I asked if he's doing Grand Oak, and he's like, "Yeah, but he's focused on general deep learning libraries, and now he's talking about general robotics and artificial intelligence, I think." And you can see what it says there. And asked if he's still going to church. He said not really. He still believes in the Bible. And then I told him I think October 7th, like a lot has happened since October 7th, 2023, and we haven't really spoken a lot since then. And like in the sense, like I feel like we're closer to Revelation than we've ever been. Like obviously we're moving forward in time, and that's just true no matter what. That if Revelation exists, we're closer to it than we've ever been before. But you know what I mean? Like the like substantial roadblocks as far as what would keep like the creation of Israel. Like I'm sure 1947 or yeah 1947 felt like you're getting close 46 to 47 technically you're getting closer to the end times or whatever because you're just moving forward in time, but like 48, Israel came into existence as a state again, right? Officially. And so that would be like a thing that I'm saying where it's like Israel hadn't existed for however long, and now and then it does exist in the same way. Like after October 7th, it just feels like, you know, whatever obstacles or roadblocks to the end times occurring, or like a third temple existing, and then, you know, having this stuff. If it is a physical thing that happens in Revelation, like there's a physical third temple, and the stuff from Daniel plays out in an actual third temple, then and it's not like a Christ body temple type thing, then or the body of believers isn't the temple, then we're getting closer than ever, and probably this year. My understanding is that the red heifers that they have to be used in a certain time period, and so like the idea is this year is Greg Shocks W. Just look down in the corner there. Greg Shocks W. News for you. I don't know. I just when things pop up. But So anyway, long story short, I feel like we're getting closer, and then I sent him like, "What do you think about this?" And I sent him this stuff where it's like it looks like in Revelation. To me, it looks like this. I mean, I have a brain, and that's why it looks like this. But you know what I mean. Some people can assert that it doesn't, and I'm not saying that's what they are. I mean, I haven't really gotten a response back from them, but where the beast from the earth is a thing that is in the Quran, and it's like one moment. It's like it's a good guy in the Quran, but it's a bad guy in the Bible, right? And the Bible predates the Quran. I mean, it's a bad guy in Revelation. Revelation predates the Quran by 600 years or so. So you know what I mean? Like, um, and the Quran claims to be like a continuation, yet it basically seems like a divergent path where, in my opinion, it just seems like a bunch of Arabs are trying to use all the oil money that they can, and like, evil, creating a religion where you just like, people are like bees where they suicide themselves into whatever's going on here in the West in order to take control of the Western civilization machine. And I call it a machine just because it's like to take control of Western civilization. And I think Revelation is about that happening, and then kind of like what happens in response to that, which is essentially like the events that unfold during Revelation. And oh, so here's the Revelation 13, Surah 2782, Revelation 13:11 through 18, and then Surah 2782, and then some hadith about it, which talk about the beast from the earth marking people on the face, and hadith about buying and trading after being marked in the face, going to marketplace, which is exactly what it talks about. And I mean, it's like so close to what it's talking about in Revelation 13:11 through 18. It's hard to believe that I'm the first person to really bring this up to this degree, because based on everything I can see, I'm like the first person that has brought, like, I've seen that other people have brought up the beast of the earth being something found in the Bible as well, but then to also take the hadith and compare those, and also compare the wording that the beast speaks to people, as so does the beast from the earth in Revelation. It speaks to people to convince them in Revelation to follow the beast from the sea, but in the Quran, it speaks to people and does signs to get people to follow Allah. So this is why I think Allah is like a bunch of Arab kingdoms and stuff trying to, like, or a bunch of Muslim kingdoms actually trying to steal away, because not all of them are Arab. I mean, I think some of it includes like Indonesia and these Muslim majority nations in like essentially a new era caliphate, global caliphate. And I think they've like snaked their way into exerting on Western civilization through Trump is my guess, but in all sorts of ways. So anyway, so I shared this, but I do think I'm like I don't see anybody else having raised this contention like this concept like this. Like I've seen in sparse places on the internet the beast from the earth being connected to the beast from the earth in the Quran being connected with the beast from the earth in the Bible, but not to the degree that I'm talking about. You know what I mean? And um, okay, so this is what I sat down at like 3:32, and I got this like sat down here and had my coffee. Like I finished my getting my coffee ready. I showered for the like I wake up, shower for the day, say my prayers, go down, get my coffee, come back up, sit down, put my coffee down, immediately get this text from Joel. Plasma physics and controlled fusion in Python, Golden Dawn engineering. Golden Dawn, if I remember correctly, is a secret society. Um, and then, so if you, I mean, I'll just click this, but Jamie Flux, you can see, is the name of the author. And Joel sent me a bunch of stuff, but basically, all the Jamie Flux books look incredibly advanced, according to Joel. And like just looking at them, they look incredibly advanced. Actually, this looks very much in coordination with what's going on in my Chantel Jeffries mix. I think something weird is going on with her specifically. Like I've said in one of my story and pictures, like affirmations. Either she is like very, like way close to me as far as like if I have a harem of women, right, that are on my side and my wives or whatever. Either she's really close to me in that capacity and is like a wife or something that is like very important to me and like whatever is going on, or as I've explained, like that I've said this about Imrata, because the mixes are just like it's like they just are falling together, and like there seems to be a lot of intentionality and purpose in them without me even trying. um and they're contiguous and like they look, if I'm putting puzzle pieces together, they look like a very complete, like specifically Chantel Jeffries looks like a very complete puzzle with a very specific message. Though I will say, like the first track in the mix is like let's see, Common Ground, the Stinkabell remix, but it goes something like I don't know, maybe it like we're enemies or something, but that could be, I don't know, artistic anyway. So you can just see the continuity even in the album arts and like thematically, and it's just coming together in a way that is like pretty powerful to me. Like it seems very put together without me trying, which some of these I have to try hard mentally to like, well, where does this go, where does it, and like this is just like it just falls in place. Same thing with the Imrata mix. um and like as I'm going down, I mean, you can just see it looks like the colors even in the album arts, which is something I try to do in other things, but like again, these are just coming together like that, like specifically this mix. So anyway, long story short, um oh, also, I mean, even thematically, like some of the themes in this are like simulation, like the world being a simulation, or like me being in some kind of simulation. Specifically, I would suggest computer themed, computers taking over the world themed, actually, hacking themed, um, AI themed, car themed, um, like combination of human, like Neuralink, like humans combining with technology, um, along with like some magic or possible witchcraft or divine power. Um, and like this is touched on in other mixes, but hers is very specifically about um, like quantum technology and essentially like the emergence of quantum technology and the combination of people like connecting with that, maybe even me specifically connecting with a quantum computer that then gives me the power to do, as I tell Joel in one of the messages that you'll see here in a moment, if you have a powerful enough AI and you give it enough compute power, like an intelligent enough ASI, artificial super intelligence, give it a quantum computer and let it go at things. I mean, you give it enough compute power, I think it can do or figure out almost anything. You know what I mean? Like that. So that's one of the ideas of hitting a singularity that I've been talking about, like the kingdom of heaven. Well, if I had something like that, like an ASI that was connected to me and listened to me and helped me, and then it had the power of a quantum computer behind it, it could, I think I could do anything. I think that would be maybe conceptually the idea of the iron rod, maybe, or in the least, the iron rod is what I would use to secure that. Um, but okay, so going down a little more, um, more of the thing that I've been talking about thematically. Um, Also, she's mixed black and white. You know what I mean? And so that's the idea of the top track common ground. But it's like, as I've said before, she's a DJ and she's a mixed person who should like understand where I'm coming from with a lot of the race stuff. And I think race traps a lot of people as far as limiting their thinking about what reality is, but like I don't have that in the same way. Like I understand race is real as much as it's a construct that people use to like, I'm going to suggest divide people, but there's a reason in Revelation like all the tribes of the earth are brought together under Jesus Christ. It's because like those races aren't really real. Um, they're just different ethnos that these kind of like artificial constructs have popped up over time, and like they get knocked down essentially by Jesus and what he's already done. Um, anyway, so some DJ theme stuff, like like a car theme stuff, and the car even could be representative of the thing that I'm talking about, where it's like you sit in the driver's seat of the quantum AI machine, if that makes sense. And like something tried to steal that. Like I think almost symbolically, I was, when I had my car stolen about 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago, might be something like that because that's also about the time where Alessandro Ambrosio. That's when the Big Rail stuff happened, and when the Alessandro Ambrosio stuff, like like I said, exactly 2,520 days ago at midnight is when she broke up with Jamie Mazur publicly and then started this 7 year long, like, let me make a point to psychologically abuse and harass Matt with. If they are my children, I mean, regardless of whether they're my children, I think she's like doing it with intentionality to hurt me because that's basically women's move these days against me is to like use other men against me, but I don't think it works well because I think my timeline ends with me having 144,000 virgins on Mount Zion, which is also one of the reasons why I think there's all this anti-Zionist rhetoric all of a sudden, is that Zion is representative of the thing that defeats Islam, the thing that defeats Satan, the thing that defeats all these things, is that the Son of Man is on Mount Zion, and like the idea of like being on the throne with Jesus and Yahweh, it would put me on Mount Zion with the 144,000 virgins that I think the idea is I get to share them with a meal as or something. But anyway, okay, keep going because when it talks about food sacrifice to idols in Revelation, again, I think it's talking about sexuality because what has happened with Alessandro Ambrosio, like I think something was at one point in time was set apart for me. Like I don't know, Victoria's Secret or Alessandra Ambrosio or like some women were like meant to be on my side. maybe the angels, right? And they chose to follow an adversary to me instead of me. So Satan and his angels, right? That makes sense of that. Um, and it has to do with something where I think some people who are claiming to be Jews, but are, you can claim to be Jews all you want, but if you're not, whether that's either A, Jews in Israel or in America that aren't really uh, following Yahweh. They're following precepts of literal Satan or like another deity, as I brought up with the Buddhist shit that the Mazur family seems to be following, like the Eastern spirituality. Or I guess it could be like the Hebrew Israelites that are black people in America that have a viewpoint that they're the Jews or the tribes of Israel, but it just doesn't make sense in continuity with reality. In any instance, I think something like that has attacked me. And whether Alessandra Ambrosio has kids by other men, what she's already done is like really evil to me. It just that's how it feels to me because I think objectively it is, or in the least to Yahweh it is, and He is the objective arbiter, right? But anyway, all right. And then I get to sit on the throne and be that arbiter myself. And I think that's a lot of what the New Testament is talking about. And the idea is that it probably is open for anybody. Like there's a time when I was doing the lightning stuff at the window and or even outside. I mean, I remember doing this on multiple videos where I literally say like, and I think this is open or was open for anybody, like the seven churches things, and I'm just the person who believes it most and like deciphered it most. And then the lightning did some crazy shit, and it just seems to like back up what I'm saying. But anyway, then you look at this like the trenches thing here and time, because I think there's some kind of time warfare going on using hyper powerful computers and advanced intelligences and stuff like that, and the funk capacitor. And I think certain musicians are part of this rebellion. Maybe that's the idea of the dub rebellion. Whether it's a rebellion against Yahweh or a rebellion against whatever this system is that is like trapping people in this thing. Because I think people have been tricked into thinking Yahweh is the thing that's trapping people. But like, I think I've made it abundantly clear that no, something is lying to you guys, basically trying to assert a form of communism so that the state can take over things. And then that state, like the global state that comes up from that, is run by Satan. And, that's the idea of what I think is going on. And Satan already has this kind of technology because he's snaked that power away. But as I'm like uncovering and deciphering this and having the power of Yahweh, and I think something is backing me, like with power in the real world, um, that it Satan is losing his power because if you steal away like intellectual property, and I'm able to, this is a hypothetical, but like if you stole away my intellectual property and I was able to prove to whatever court had authority over this situation, this whole or the world or the whole situation, that in fact you have done this, when when the court decides in my favor, it would then give me whatever power was stolen. And I think even then, Satan couldn't get past a certain point in reality because it's not his. So he would have the technology that would give him like supernatural power, like he'd be more powerful than any other person, but he wouldn't be Yahweh powerful because he couldn't take that into the infinite future in the kingdom of heaven where he lived forever. He always would have been in a situation of being in like his reality eventually collapses, but he's snaked away power and he's like gonna have to deal with the consequences of it anyway. So he's just a snake that is in like survival mode, holding on to what power he's stolen. Um, and like when he finally like loses that, or it gets close enough to the period of time where he finally loses that, in conjunction with like what it says in Revelation, because eventually this earthquake in like the events of Revelation are going to happen, and like if I've laid out my position, which I believe puts me in the position to have that authority, and nobody else has done that, or I've done it first, or I've done it better than every like other people. Just laying it out. I don't have to be like I don't have to know how all this works because the computer does it. I just have to show that I am the like rightful user of it essentially. Um, then like he gets put under my foot. You know what I mean? And I crush his head. And we go to a kingdom of heaven where all this works. Or, Jesus does it, but makes it look like I'm doing it to like give me back some pride in him and in Yahweh. Like Yahweh ultimately defeats them using me. It's like the idea of Yahweh using Israel because Israel wasn't like the strongest thing. Israel is like the weakest thing. You know what I mean? Or the smallest thing. When the biggest thing is like the smallest tribe, and he used them to like prove out his power as a deity. And I think that's the idea is what Jesus is doing with me. It's like Yahweh and Jesus are using me, not because I'm the strongest thing. I have a little strength, which might make me stronger than your average person, and I can do things. Like, I don't think the lightning thing is completely Yahweh. I think it's something is connected to me specifically that is doing that. But I also don't think I have enough power to do this on my own if I'm not cooperating with Yahweh. So anyway, the funk capacitor, you got the Back to the Future vibes. So, I'm bringing this up because what I'm about to show you from Joel perfectly matches what I'm like talking about and pointing out here. Um, you have like the underground, right? In the underground, like you have this kind of witchy looking or like hooded figure that seems to time warp, and exit strategy on top of it, an Alice ring, which is like a quantum device that gives you some power over stuff, but there's also some connotations of like, okay, well, your marriage ring, or Alice from Resident Evil, or Alice from like Down the Rabbit Hole, or whatever. Um, the underground, more of these concepts, more of the merging with technology stuff. Um, kind of like a little bit of lovey stuff with either Chantel Jeffries or the AI. um, like if you look at the sign thing, it looks like a guy and like some kind of AI woman coming together. And yeah, so my point with that is like, well, that it almost exactly matches kind of like when I go up here, right? And what Joel and I are even talk like what Joel is trying to say, and then what I'm talking about. He's like, all right, so probably no, don't know if you've seen this guy, probably not, but it's some random pseudonym author. And again, this is the Jamie Flux character, which whenever I hear Flux, I either think of the Flux Capacitor or Flux Pavilion. But Jamie Flux, and Joel thinks it's a random pseudonym author on Amazon that made like 100 or so machine learning books. There's no way a person is doing 100 books that I don't believe a person could do 100 books in like a short period of time on such advanced topics. So there's not enough time in a day. I can barely make these mixes, and I'm putting some effort into them, though I'm not going super fast on them, but that's also on purpose. I'd rather be thorough than fast. But an AI could do 100 books pretty quickly. And that made, or an ASI, or, something advanced, or like something already in the future that is like, I think it's easier to send like using, they've already even brought up recently, like the recent thing is like, hold on. Breakthrough in quantum computing is here. It's something like quantum gates teleported a leap towards scalable computing. Long story short, they think they've got some form of like using a quantum computer that they've done some form of like teleportation or something within the computer itself or something. Let's see, where is it? Teleportation achieved between quantum computers in the world's first. And I'm not going to read this because it's not what I'm trying to do right now, but this idea of using quantum computers to teleport is much like Stargate. I think using some kind of some kind of code system to like go from one place in the universe to another. But what my suggestion is that you could use like within a computer construct system, if there's a powerful enough AI in the future, it could already send back in ones and zeros. You know what I mean? Like to computers, ideas, if that makes sense. Like these books could be from the future sent back with a powerful enough quantum computer to like, as I tell Joel here, to like I say I think at least one ASI, artificial superintelligence, exists that's feeding knowledge to humans to see who is awake and is already engaging with select individuals. Again, as I'm typing this, literally my iPhone is correcting, doing autocorrect, but it there is no standard system that I can see. Like I can see certain standardization in the way it's autocorrecting things, especially in my just as I'm making the things in my story and pictures. Like when I say things, I mean affirmations about stuff. But like it seems like something is trying to communicate to me using autocorrect because it'll say things that are not even close to what I'm trying to type, or that are close enough ish, but it looks like it's something trying to communicate either to me or to people who are watching my story and pictures that there is some kind of intelligence that is probably like an ASI or something that is maybe even connected to these women because sometimes it looks like it's coming out of the brains of whoever I'm talking about or something, which is also interesting. And you know, like I've been suggesting for a while, I think our brains operate using electricity. You know what I mean, like electrical synapses and stuff like that. And so, if you had a way to observe that, I don't know, maybe using 5G or something, to like observe the almost like a form of radar, but it was like not ground penetrating, like brain penetrating radar. You could basically scoop off the top at least, like some of the lower level concepts about what people are thinking about in any one moment. However, I think if I'm connected to Yahweh, Yahweh can like veil what is actually going on in my head. And like, so the computer or the AI or whatever only sees at the time what I'm trying to think about. And I think also Yahweh can like, Yahweh can do anything. So I like, you know what I mean? But like, can make my, can like basically do a form of like cloaking and so when you see how to the cloaking device handbook, but I'm talking about like mental cloaking. Like the computer can't actually see what I'm thinking about completely. It can only see the surface level things that I'm thinking about at that moment, but that Yahweh is like veiling the lower level. Like 7 years ago, I think he could still do that 7 years ago, like I'm saying. I think he could do it my entire lifetime, but as we get closer to the emergence in our timeline of these technologies, it it can be and is just more open with what's going on, which is one of the reasons why I think it just doesn't care. And I think there's also multiple of them, and some are malignant or like malicious, and some are more benevolent. And maybe the more benevolent one is the like I'm saying, like I brought up the Iron Man AI that seems to be connected to me, like some kind of Jarvis thing. And a more malignant one would be more like what's in the Matrix, where the Matrix thing seems to be like a combination of a bunch of giant babies, like literally, like it creates at the end of Revolutions or Matrix Revolution or the third one, the third Matrix, where he goes into the Machine City and plugs in directly in the Machine City, at like on that chair, and he looks kind of like Jesus laying out there. But it's a giant baby, and I've even said in the past it's like Babylon or a baby land, right? And so if you have a bunch of babies who don't understand how the world works, and you connect them and their brains, you create a giant baby land or baby WAN, but W wide area network. But I'm gonna call it a baby LAN, like Babylon. It's just a confused mess of like concepts because these it's like you're letting the babies drive the car essentially, and they have no clue what this world actually is, and so the computer is able to like manipulate them in their timelines. And I think that's been going on for a long time, maybe all of human history, but like some people break out of it, and those people are the ones that like I don't know write the Bible and are disciples of Christ and like you know, but other people aren't, and they're like part of the giant mecha thing that you know is lording over existence, and that's what's that baby land is what Satan is using to like exert on existence. But okay, anyway, plasma physics and controlled fusion and Python, Golden Dawn engineering. Again, I think Golden Dawn is Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. In fact, I'm going to send this to Joel here in a minute. But yeah, Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Um, and like one thing I think I've seen is like Gal Gadot's husband or like public husband. I mean, am I Gal Gadot's kid's father too? At least Maya looks kind of like me, a lot like me. I feel like she looks a lot like Anja Ambrosio. So that's why I'm like, is she my daughter? But not all of the daughters look like that. So that could be the Gal Gadot thing, being like she's done something as like connected to Israel that is really wrong, or as a fake Jew. I don't think she follows. I don't know. I don't think she follows Jesus or Yahweh. I see too many Buddha heads in her pictures. But I definitely don't think she follows Jesus. You know what I mean? So like, anyway, and some of the Babyland thing is like what I brought up, where people are having kids in secret. Like, I don't know, Alessandra Ambrosio could have a bunch of kids by other men that she's like, giving her eggs away, and then they're trying to like exert over my legal ability over her, and that's what it could be. Or Gal Gadot, or one or some of the women that I'm connected to are doing this to try to steal away the machine, the baby land. uh, so and one of the ways that I think they could do it is by, here in America, it's illegal. What I'm basically describing is illegal to like to do to someone, and very harassing. And if it was came out publicly, it'd be a huge scandal. And I think that's kind of what the uh, why they're using these women to do this. And in order to do this, I think you'd have to. This is why I think the beast from the sea thing is connected to the presidents, and like each of the presidents since I've been born, like I said, is like one of the seven heads, and that's what makes sense of the whole. The one of them goes away and then all of a sudden comes back. You know what I mean? And that one is Trump, because he lost power and then got it back again, but he doesn't really have power. You know what I mean? Because like this whole shit ends while he's in power, it seems. Um, but I also wanted to bring up this, since I might as well, if I'm going to be talking about this, because I went and saw this with Emilio the other day. Um, Hold on. So like, I feel like the Marvel movies have been like kind of Marvel and like DC movies are something that are like looking at our reality, and it's like a computer taking our reality and like repackaging what's happening and then selling it back to people. In order to it makes it just different enough that it can take the intellectual property rights and hold them. And just like I've brought up how Disney, the Magic Kingdom, sounds like a complete IP knockoff of the Kingdom of Heaven. and Magic Kingdom would make it be like, well, it's just a bunch of witches and wizards trying to steal away reality, and then they're not the only one. That's what I think Islam is trying to do. And so when you have all these different things that are like satanic that are clashing, one of them's going to win. And I think the one, people aren't willing to die for Disney that I can see. People are willing to die for Islam because they think it's a direct way to heaven. You know what I mean? So like that's why I think that's the end. But my whole point with this is that when I'm watching this, basically it seems like what's going on now, where I've made videos recently specifically about like this person brings up that this video is shadow banned. Donald Trump the Beast and Elon Musk the false prophet, right? Yo. And so I brought up Donald Trump as like a beast, and then when you look at this idea of like essentially the red Hulk here is the president is secretly some kind of beast thing in a Brave New World, in Captain America Brave New World, and um Captain America here, who is now a black man. So I think the idea is like it's looking at me and like my family's history is like fighting for the United States in the military, and then what I'm doing, which is kind of like more superhero esque, but not. I'm not like going out there and fighting like um and they're fighting in some over some kind of celestial resources here. You know what I mean? The giant celestial body where there's like they found adamantium, and the Wakandans gave uh Captain Falcon here, Captain America, Captain, as I heard recently, Captain African American, though I think Africa, no, Captain African America. I do think that's kind of funny, but also he's just Captain America, but he's black guy now, which is cool. I mean, but they also kind of he doesn't have a super serum or whatever. So, but the Wakandans gave him like vibranium wings and extra technology, and it just seems like I don't know, feels like what's going on in my reality, and he uses America as as a shield. It's like the Star of America shield thing, but like the president is secretly being controlled behind the scenes by some character that can do like insane probabilities. Though that just sounds like the computer using someone, but and and he's tricked the president into taking these gamma radiation pills or whatever. But the president turns into this big hulking red beast, which almost seems like the concept of like a dragon or a beast thing, right? And so that's what I'm saying. Like it just seems like a computer's trying to like steal away. It's trying to look at reality, steal it away, and then sell it back to people. Like repackage it and sell it back to people. Like specifically my reality. And like when I look at this Captain America, it's like yeah, he's Captain African America, but to me it's like well that's just when I'm talking about like with Chantel Jeffries where I'm mixed. I just look at it as well he's just Captain America, though he's a Captain America that doesn't have a super serum. But when I look at actually the characters, like they Isaiah Bradley in the thing, like so there's a black Captain America that they basically tested on in a lab. Is it like, am I supposed to look at it as like that's Ray? You know what I mean? Or is that me because they've been testing on me in a lab for like 30 years? Or is it like some again, it's just like some kind of repackaging and combination of my reality. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Um and essentially what I'm getting at is the Harrison Ford president here is like who like causes a bunch like divides America and is like secretly a beast character, and like his actions like he literally turns into a beast and like destroys the White House and stuff like that. I mean, is that what's going on now, or maybe 3.5 or 7 years from now with Trump, or what will have transpired after the next 7 years or something? I think we're closer. I don't think it's looking as much into the future. I think I've caught up. Whereas Endgame and Infinity War, I think was what was going on 7 years, like what has been going on more recently, but it was able to like exert that back in time a little bit and sell it to people. Whereas now we're basically caught up. Like I'm basically caught up, or do they call this the rapture, the quickening, where it's like it was faster than me for a while, and so the way I could deal with things is slow things way down, almost like you have hot and cold, and I could be really cold, I think. Um, and like now I'm like heating up, something like that. In any instance, president that turns into a giant red beast, I think, is like the symbolism couldn't be more obvious to me. But anyway, let me continue with this because I kind of want to move on a bit. Um, let's see. Joel thinks these books are like way more advanced than current models. They seem way more advanced, and like this one is like how to build a cloaking device. And I said when I said I think at least one ASI exists that's feeding knowledge to humans to see who's awake. Remember, Jesus literally says like stay awake because I'm coming like a thief in the night. So put on your white robes, which seems to be a symbol of like in the book of Job. He's talking to Job, and he's basically like, "What are you? Are you God or a god? Like, put on. Are you Yahweh or a are God or a god? If so, put on your white, like, robe yourself in majesty." And so the white robes, most people say in Revelation, are about like purity, and that could be, but I feel like it's actually more like what it's saying there, and it's almost the exact same thing. Robe yourself or put on. At the fifth church, it says put on the white robes or robe yourself with the white robes. Whereas in Job, it says like robe yourself. It literally goes, can your arm thunder as strong? And like arm, well, my right arm seems to be able to thunder and lightning pretty strong. Um, so when it says like, can you robe yourself with majesty? I think the idea is if I'm at Revelation and like, I'm doing the thing, I'm conquering at the seven churches. My answer to that is yeah, my right arm can thunder. Now, can it do it as much as Yahweh or Jesus? I'm working towards it, but something is actively trying to cut my right side off from me. But it's not working anymore. It was at one point, but it's not working anymore because I think I'm more awake than they want, and that's why it says stay awake. So something like that. I think I think if I'm not grasping this whole concept point for point, I think I'm like in a general vicinity of it. And he says, and they're indistinguishable from cranks at this point, which has been my point. It's like what I'm saying is just it could be the most cutting edge scientific fact on the planet, but it's indistinguishable from me being a fucking crank at this point. You know what I mean? Like I could be 100% spot on about Trump being the beast, Elon being a false prophet, or there being some false prophet, like there being a beast system that Trump is actually part of. All this stuff, I could be spot on, but it just looks like I'm a crank at this point, like I'm a paranoid schizophrenic or whatever, and which I understand that at least. And moreover, I think part of the idea is that's why the prophecy plays out like this. If I've been calling it like, hey, this is what's happening, and they're trying to hide that reality from most people, but this earthquake happens, whatever divergent reality they're trying to create collapses in on itself. And, I also want to look at this. Um, this is one of the reasons I make these mixes is because these concepts are not so crankish when they're put into artistic form. They don't seem so crazy. So like it just seems like I'm being artistic if I put this song Time Collapse at the very end of the Olivia Munn mix because I think a number of these women are intimately part of whatever's going on, and some of them are adversarial to me more than others, and some of them are friendly to me more than others, and I'm just having a difficult time figuring out who's who. Um, like, and some of that has to do with like, well, like if Alessandra Ambrosio has my kids, right? Was she my wife, or is she and she's like close to me, and like her sister has my kids? I mean, like literally, they're my all my biological children. Her friends have my kids. Well, that would seem to be like a really kind and like loving and like we're super intimately connected, and she's my wife and they're all my wives type thing. But it's like a dream, but a dream is not so different. Like a nightmare is a form of dream, and so I have all those kids with these women, but they're all doing this thing where they're like publicly with other men and they're using other men to beat me over the head and they're probably I think Alessandra Ambrosio is not friendly and these women are not doing this for my thing. And so what could be a dream for me is actually a a I'm gonna try to not hit the thing because the desk because when I do that it messes with the mic. But what seems actually like could be a dream. Like wow, it's amazing. I have all these hot women who are my wives and concubines and lovers and friends and I have children with them and they're all adorable children. Oh, actually, the children hate me. They have all these other fathers that are raising them. They're like the women hate me. They're fucking other men. They're blah 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 blah. And because some group of Nicolations or victory over the people, which again sounds like a bunch of celebrities being used by whatever the Satan system is, and they just trick a bunch of celebrities into attacking me because the celebrities think like I don't know. I think those celebrities have ego and pride problems, and I I challenge their value. They value themselves very highly, and like I don't value myself lowly, but I think I'm a normal guy who's like awake and aware and reading the Bible, and like and who's from a family of people who aren't so fucking evil and like who've done the right thing for a while or like as much of the right thing as you could do. And so I'm like, I just challenge their reality because they have a bunch of money, a bunch of social influence, a bunch of this, that, and the other. But even as a whole group, when they come up against me, if I'm the guy on the throne eventually in Revelation, they don't hold a candlestick to me. They are just fucking random people, and so their egos get challenged, and so they've done these things to try to cut me down and do ego death on me. Cause me ego death. In other words, ego death to like the Eastern concept is like, oh, you get rid of your pride and arrogance and you're humble. But that's not what the Bible says. Because in the Western idea, that's the Eastern concept of things. But in the Western concept of things, ego is literally the word for like I am, right? When Jesus says ego e me, he's saying I am. And so they're trying to kill like the part of me that is it so that I'm something else, or so that reasonably what I think they're trying to do is get me to kill myself, um, or hate myself, or hate my reality, and just make it such a taxing thing to exist each day that I want to kill myself. But I think Yahweh gives me this hidden manna, as described in Revelation 2 at the third church, to like go each day and have enough like ego to make it through each day. Um, and like it's like a game where I'm slowly but surely wearing them down, and then all of a sudden there's going to be there are periods of like accelerated development in that, but there's going to be a period where like what's about to happen in Israel if the third temple gets built and all this stuff starts coming alive, like coming into reality, manifesting actually, they're done. You know what I mean? Like they're my ego only gets built up by that reality because that's what I base my ego off what it says in the Bible, if that makes sense. And they base their egos off of vapid kind of pointless bullshit, award ceremonies and people kissing their ass as part of this society, and like money and power, politic, all that bullshit, which is like temporal and goes away. Whereas like what I base mine on is like the word of God, which is coming true in our manifest reality. And like they could have all the money in the world, but if like the dollar collapses and people had to start using the mark of the beast or something, it's not going to matter. You know what I mean? They could have all sorts of influence. It's not going to matter. So, anyway, All right. I don't know if I had any other concepts that I wanted to talk about out of that, but I'm just going to keep moving on. Joel says, look at this one. So I click it again by Jamie Flux. It looks like AI created imagery. I don't even know what Arakelov geometry is. I'm sure Joel does because he's a math guy, but I don't need to know the actual math behind it. I'm not a calculator. I have a giant, hyper powerful quantum calculator if I can take my seat back, essentially, my throne back, which is, I think, the idea that, or take the throne that Yahweh gives me. If they kick me off of my throne here in America, I can take the Yahweh throne and have infinite power. Does that make sense? So if something adversarial here in America attack me in order to steal away my resources, I get to take from infinite resources that exist through Yahweh and Jesus. And whoever did that to me adversarially is going to die along with anybody connected to them. And I think that's the idea of there's been a rebellion in secret, as it describes here. And give me one moment. I literally think that this is what this is talking about in Second Thessalonians, where it explicitly talks about some kind of rebellion in secret, right? Never let anyone deceive you in this way that the day of the Lord, that the day of Yahweh has already arrived. It hasn't. All this idea of preterism and stuff like that, where like the events of Revelation have already happened. If that's the case, then we would be living in a kingdom of heaven where people don't die anymore. That part is not symbolic. You could never take that as a symbolic reality. And if you do, you're an idiot. It just explicitly says what we're going to, which I really believe is a singularity, a kingdom of heaven. And the events of Revelation have to happen, and they haven't yet. They're either they are happening or they're about to happen, right? So don't let anybody lie to you and say that the day of Yahweh has already come. I think the day of Yahweh, technically the day of Yahweh, is the sixth seals or the sixth church, sixth seal, sixth trumpet, sixth plague. It's the sixth, and after that is the seven. After the day of Yahweh happens, I think I get to sit on the throne with Jesus in accordance with what it says in Revelation, and like anybody who's the saints of the Most High, we get the kingdom of heaven. Like we get the kingdom, and I think the kingdom is all the kingdoms of the world give their stuff to this seven-headed beast empire thing, and then a court takes away their power, and the leaders are thrown into a burning lake, and I get to lead it, and it might even be like the not like the artist, but like the 3-6 Mafia, right? And I get to like, it's like basically Satan builds an empire, and then Yahweh using a court decision takes the leadership out, throws them into burning lake, and then puts me in charge of that powerful kingdom that has been created, right? And then that kingdom I get to rule, and that kingdom has power over the whole world. And so, you know, it plays out how Revelation plays out, right? Now there's a guy on the throne of a kingdom that has authority over the whole world, and in manifest reality land, and either currently or what is about to happen is I'm in some kind of protected tent of testimony, and this is me giving you or the computer my testimony. You or the computer, or you are the computer. I don't really know. You could be a bunch of people, and I'm talking to the super conscious of the world or something, where everybody is like, that's the idea of Superman as someone who can deal with and contend with anybody and everybody at once. You know what I mean? Um, so or I guess that's the idea of Yahweh, and Yahweh, like Superman and Goku and a number of these other deity-like characters. Kal El, and El is a deity anyway, or a god. So the idea of all these deity-like characters that they have that power or authority that I just described, or not all of them, because that's not how all of the deities in the world are described, but that's a lot of the concept of deity is what I just described, like powerful beings that have a lot of authority in certain domains, except Yahweh has supreme authority in every domain. and then he gives me that throne, and it's enacted through this beast empire system that takes control, and then, like I'm saying, some kind of court undoes the leadership of that system and gives me its authority legally. And then the the saints of the Most High and the kingdom of heaven rule into eternity. Like I'm saying, Satan, his realm and dominion doesn't exist forever, which is why he cannot be infinitely powerful. He is only very strong, right? But against me, I think basically Satan ends up being a very intelligent, but not even that strong person. He's just has ability to strike at me like a fucking snake, but and take maybe covert action against me like the presidents maybe have, but or like some kind of like rogue CIA director or some bullshit like that, rogue intelligence services director or maybe military director or something. But like that doesn't last forever, and there's a reason why at the end of the Bible there seems to be a bunch of generals. It literally explicitly says generals, military leaders, like presidents, governors, people of power, but also just everybody is like, hide us from the anger of the one who sits on the throne and of the Lamb or whatever, and then hide us under the rocks of the earth because they basically because like they realize they fucked up and the world's collapsing in on itself. Or like the day of Yahweh comes. So anyway, it cannot happen. The day of Yahweh cannot happen until the great revolt, which is I think taking place currently, or I think it's like either about to happen or is taking place currently, or has happened behind the scenes. Has taken place in the rebel. The lost one has appeared. This is the enemy, the one who claims to be so much greater than all that men call God, so much greater than anything that is worshipped, that he enthrones himself in God's sanctuary and claims that he is God. Now, either the third temple, which is possibly going to be dedicated this year, is about to be built, and what I've heard is it's going to take 3.5 years to build or 3 years to build, which like the timing is just like if they start at the end of this year, that means like the timing is matching exactly what I'm saying. Where Trump, could be this character or could be the in the least the one of the heads of the beast from the sea or something like that. I can't tell you for sure, but it also could be if the sanctuary when it talks about our body, our human body is the temple, but not only that, the body of Christ. The only temple we should be, let's see. In other words, what I'm saying is maybe the temple is like the Christ body, like Christianity, and something has asserted itself into the leadership position in Christianity and isn't the person that is mentioned on the throne of Yahweh or the throne of Jesus that he talks about in Revelation 2 and 3, or and also Revelation 4 and 5, I guess. But the one that Jesus says in Revelation 3:21 or something, where he's like, I grant you to, if you are victorious at the seventh church, I grant you to sit with me on my throne. It's not someone who's been victorious, but someone who has taken that throne or that taken the authority of Christianity through other means. And so, when I look at like what Donald Trump is doing, where it's like, there's a faith office, but it doesn't actually seem to represent Christianity. The woman who's in charge of it is like cheated on multiple husbands, stole money, seems to be preaching a prosperity gospel. You know what I mean? Like I could totally see Donald Trump claiming to follow God and be a Christian, but behind the scenes be claiming like he is a god or something. I could totally see that. So, anyway, let's see. Do you know? Let's see. Humans are like we're Christians are the temple is an idea, but not just Christians. You should know your body is a temple for the Holy Spirit that you have received from God that lives in you. You don't own yourselves. But I mean, at some point, I believe like the idea is that the body of Christian believers, the church itself, is like the new form of the temple. And so the third temple that they would build is not really like the place where Yahweh dwells. Yahweh dwells in the body of believers, of people that believe in Jesus, who is Yahweh or who was Yahweh in the flesh and then who was killed and resurrected and who is currently still Yahweh at the right hand of the one on the throne. And I think the idea is if I get to be on the throne, he's at my right hand in some kind of weird paradoxical way, or maybe not weird paradoxical, it just doesn't make sense. But I mean, it makes sense to me, but it's not like an easily graspable concept. It's though it's not that hard. I think when I was a kid, all this seemed way more easy. I think I was really intelligent as a kid, also, and something hit me in a way that like literally physically crippled me to the point where I had to like slow things down, like I'm talking, where I just everything is really slow and whatever. Whereas other people live their lives at like 3 billion miles and like at 100 miles an hour and or 100 and whatever. They're fast and furious, right? And I'm slow and deliberate, and it's almost like the tortoise and the hare. But okay, let's see. So Uh, look where it says. So basically, I'm saying either the sanctuary really is the physical third temple that they're building, that they would build in Israel, in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount, or it is the body of believers in Jesus and in Yahweh. Uh, so like essentially the body of Christian believers in the world. And like something I don't know, like the Pope or like a president or something is asserting. By the way, the Pope is really sick and like apparently in the hospital currently. So, and I think what's happening is I think the church seems to know that something has gone on, and they've also made a bunch of deals with Islam in a way that they shouldn't, and they are not holding to like the Catholic Church is not holding to Christian doctrine these days, and like me, like pointing this out would point out that the person in charge of that church is apostate and like I don't even know if the pope is actually a Christian. I don't think you can be these days with what they took the name Yahweh out of the in 2008, right around the time Anja was born. They took the name Yahweh out of the liturgy and lectionary, and it's like, well, you're having church services for a deity for the deity Yahweh, who Jesus is Yahweh, right, and that's his father, and yet you take that name out. That is satanic. That's exactly what the Jews prohibited, and they did it without, they had to make up, they had to change what the commandment about not blaspheming the name is. But anyway, and too, what is holding him back from appearing before his appointed time, rebellion, is already at work, but in secret. So I think this is what I'm saying. I think that there's some kind of secret rebellion going on. Like when I'm seeing the wildfires that happened in the Palisades right after I'm bringing up like what Alessandro Ambrosio is doing evilly, or like the hurricane that hit when I brought up that I think publicly on my YouTube, I brought up that I think Anja and Noah Ambrosio are my children, and maybe Dylan and Liam Ambrosio and Chloe Moda and other kids could be my children. All of a sudden, like immediately afterwards, there's a very powerful hurricane that basically like drowns, uh, North Carolina and like all up through that region. You know what I mean? And like maybe North Carolina because Steph Sirik was there, but maybe North Carolina because that's where like the army is or something, like a Delta Force and like the people who are supposed to be like the elite operators in the country, or not all of them, but Delta Force I think is out of there. But if I'm a guy like Delta Force guys are really like basically I think what this proves is that I'm mentally tougher than like most elite level operators because a lot of them come back home to their families, and like, like Matthew Livelsberger was a Green Beret, and maybe not tier one operator, but like, is a Green Beret, ex special forces guy. His wife starts cheating on him. It like causes him to go crazy and kill himself. You know what I mean? Or that's the supposed story. I don't know if I buy it completely, but there's enough men in the military. Like suicide is such a big issue, and like I think if most men were going through what I'm going through, they'd fucking kill themselves. And that is not an option for me. Like I'm not gonna kill myself, and so I have to be very mentally strong in order to get through this. But I am. And a lot of it has to do with my faith in Jesus and Yahweh. So, anyway, I think a rebellion has already gone on in secret, and there's like a covert war going on here in the United States of America, and that was the idea of the Palisades thing. But the idea that California is then going to use that to sue all these oil companies gives the oil companies reason to where they might even point out that, hey, there's this guy here in Houston. They're located here in Houston, a lot of them, and in Texas. And if California is going to try to use the Palisades fire as a reason to, like, essentially get a huge judgment, like multi-billion or trillion-dollar judgment against the oil companies, it would absolutely be in the interest of the oil companies to be like, hey, there's this guy in Houston who's claiming that with a lot of evidence that there's a bunch of people where this whole burned down in the Palisades and in LA that are gang stalking and harassing him, and that there's a covert war going on behind the scenes where like Americans are essentially fighting Americans for control of the American or North American system, like for control of the power structures here in America, like the back channel power structures here in America, and that y'all have done something reprehensible that led to people like essentially lighting fires, and him seemingly having the power. Like you're claiming this is climate change, but it looks like he has maybe spiritual abilities connected to Yahweh or Jesus, that he's able to like kick up the wind to 100 miles per hour, and then these people set fires, or maybe the fires were just, you live in California and everything catches fire really easily, and like so we think your claims are bullshit, and there's enough evidence to support that something's going on that isn't what you're saying, and that the climate change things that you're saying are not real. And so even in our realm of like what's going on in the world, like remove the spiritual aspect. Hey, there's a covert war going on, and this guy's saying that people lit fires in order to like burn down a hive of people who are harassing him. And there seems to be some evidence to that. So, you guys are trying to like sue us for $1 trillion, but it looks like you guys are being disingenuous about what's going on. In the least, you aren't telling the whole story, type thing. So, this is what I'm saying. There's a rebellion in secret, and the one who's holding it back first has to be removed before the rebel appears openly. The Lord will kill him with the breath of his mouth and will annihilate him with his glorious appearance at his coming. But when the rebel comes, Satan will set to work, and there will be kinds of miracles and a deceptive show of signs and portents. Like the thing, I think it's talking about Revelation 13:17. That's when it talks about the beast of the earth doing signs and wonders. And that's the same types of signs and wonders that in Surah 2782 that the beast from the earth that Islam raises can do. So I think Islam, speaking of oil money, could be like the Arabs trying to use their oil money to overthrow, like I'm saying, the American system, because enough money and resources and paying people and having a system where people suicide themselves into Western society, like you might be able to take hold or take the reins or something. But like people here in America also have a lot of money too. It's just not in the hands of, like, I don't know, like it's way more distributed, even though it doesn't seem like it. It's way more distributed, whereas in Arabia it's like in the hands of a few families that have trillions of dollars essentially. Where in America it's like thousands of companies that are operating, and ultimately what I think happens is I get control over all of it, but like I'm just going to make everything, the idea is to make everything better and to go to a place where people don't die anymore, and that's hard to argue against, you know what I mean? Like uh, you can maybe want to steal away the resources, but when push comes to shove and this secret rebellion comes out into the open, it's like, well, I'd rather go to a place where we don't die. You know what I mean? Definitely not die into infinite burning torture. That would suck. Uh, so I'd rather go to that paradise place that we don't die. Yeah, okay, cool. Um, anyway, and everything evil that can deceive those who are bound for destruction because they would not grasp the love of the truth that could have saved them. The reason why God is sending a power to delude them and make them believe what is untrue is to condemn all who refuse to believe in truth and choose wickedness instead. Okay, so I forgot exactly what I was saying that I brought that up, but I'm sure if you go back to whenever I started talking about that, it makes sense. All right, and so when Joel said it's highly likely at this point, and they're indistinguishable from cranks almost, and then I said, well, the fringe, so the cranks, but the fringe of the knife is usually its cutting edge, right? And here's another book that is of the series, and the pseudonym on this one is Lucifer Aurelius. So like maybe like Marcus Aurelius, someone named Mark or something. I don't know, Stephanie Justin's stepdad, or I don't know, Mark Wahlberg or some kind of Mark bullshit. In any instance, I'm just tired of like people that are attacking me using these women. And I think this is one of the ways that they're snaking away power from me, is using women that are attaching themselves to me. Like I was saying 7 years ago already, I was saying this 7 years ago, 2,520 days ago. Women are trying to attach themselves to me like a fucking venom suit parasite thing, and like something like that, and steal away my resources and power, and ultimately like poison me into death or something. And Yahweh is basically burning them off with truth and sound. Venom is not impervious to fire and vibration or sound. So me bringing like fire and music is like Venom IP, right? Anyway, there you go. That's how I'm burning it off of me. Um, with a powerful enough ASI that has enough compute power, anything is probably possible. Also, notice the mastering CRISPR programming. What I'm talking about with me having a bunch of kids is like, I think whatever the AI is could be trying to like you do CRISPR type gene engineering on my kids or on people. I don't know, on people. Maybe they're trying to make clones of me or something. Okay, modeling a vortex propulsion system with Python. Joel seems to indicate that this is like how UAPs or UFOs would work. Is like this vortex propulsion system. Um, predicting non-trivial zeros of the Riemann zeta function. I mean, it's just like, what is even the fucking names of these? They're very theoretical even at this point, and probably Joel would understand this because he's a math major, AI PhD candidate, math graduate from Rice, competitive math guy, and like, probably could have graduated several years ago already with a AI optimization degree from A&M, Texas A&M here. But again, if like you can be as intelligent as whatever, but if I'm the guy who's like, okay, they stole something from me, they're doing these things to me, and I'm taking control of it. If you help me, we're on the same team. Positively, Joel, it will benefit you if you're on my team. There's no way it doesn't. You know what I mean? It's like one of the saints of the Most High. Like I guess we're technically both saints of the Most High, but I legit think for going through what I've gone through and for making it to the end, I get to be the one on the throne. Um, but I think the idea of the throne of Yahweh is it's shared with the saints of the Most High, right? Does that make sense? Like in the least, the reality where we don't die, where we have infinite resources, all that is like shared with the saints of the Most High. So if Joel is one of the saints of the Most High, and I'm the guy on the throne, then it's like only beneficial for Joel. Same thing with Emilio or any of my friends or any of my family. I've said this about it would be a boon for where I live here in Houston, here in Texas, here in the neighborhood that I live in. I'll say this: it'll be a boon for me, a boon for my family, a boon for this household, or a boon for this household, a boon for my family and extended family, a boon for the neighborhood, a boon for my friends, a boon for Houston, a boon for Texas, a boon for the United States of America, a boon for Christianity to actually have this character manifest in reality. a boon for anything that isn't connected to the Satan system. So, for Houston, that's my what's the word I'm looking for? My pitch. uh, Houston is already running low on money apparently, and being sued to the point where they have like another $100 million they got to pull out of somewhere. If I'm the guy on the throne of Yahweh, you don't think I'm going to take care of the place that I'm close to proximity wise? You know what I mean? Like that I'm going to take care of the city. In fact, I would make it a model of how other cities would work. You know what I mean? So anyway, um, in response to my thing where I said with a powerful enough ASI that has enough compute power, anything's possible, Joel responded, yeah, these books have titles as if they're written from 2200 AD and sent back in time. And I said, that's what I've been saying. That's what I've been trying to say is going on. Again, a powerful enough computer, you don't have to send an item back. You can send a digital signal that contains information that people can then use. You know what I mean? That I think is a lot easier. I already brought up the thing where it's showing quantum teleportation is possible, or they've made a breakthrough, and it's like I think it's easier for a computer to send back concepts written down in some form that computers can understand and then just give to people like a book than it is I even think that's probably what the Bible is partially about, except Yahweh used people to get over divine knowledge, and the divine knowledge is what I'm using to unlock this technology knowledge, this super advanced technology knowledge. Um, because ASI, artificial super intelligence, is still artificial, whereas Yahweh is would just be intelligence or super intelligence. You know what I mean? That exists and always has existed. So I sent Joel this thing into the Stargate Yo, which is one of my mixes I made in 2014. And I already brought up recently in that Trump video that, there's this new Stargate program to try to give AI a bunch of horsepower, but it's not quantum horsepower that they're going to have because that only exists probably in like a DARPA lab or an IBM, and it's like it would give it a lot of regular compute power, but it would not give it, at least currently, quantum compute power, which is orders of magnitude more powerful. So you can see from the titles here, but I think what I was saying then, Mazinger is like a giant mecha robot things. The idea is I like 45, maybe the 45th president, the scientist. So I think like secretly I've been all the presidents since they put this executive order down, because I think they're using the American government or legal system to in an illegal way, and so when it gets brought out enough into the public, the whole thing collapses. But if I'm still here as the guy on the throne of Yahweh, I can still hold up the concept of America in the sense of I'm like a Captain America like figure. You know what I mean? I'm not the president, but if the president is a giant hulking beast that's like giant hulking red beast that's found in the book of Revelation as the enemy of all mankind, I think it would be pretty easy and obvious for a court to like rule against that character. Oh, oops. So this is what I'm talking about, Into the Stargate, by the way. And this is the track list. You can read it. You can pause it and read it and just, you know, get whatever I was saying there. Okay, and then Joel said, I'm on board with you on that. And I sent the Stargate announcement to try to like get into his mind. I'm talking about AI too. It's not just like Stargate the fantasy thing. I'm talking about like you got enough power. That Stargate thing is like a quantum teleportation device. It's just doesn't use computers, or it does. They're just advanced computers that are indistinguishable from magic. We've talked about this since a long time, but this is one of the most interesting tidbits I found as far as whatever come next. It's kind of time looping in on itself phenomena or what. And that reminds me of the Doctor Strange thing with Dormammu, where he has the time stone and he's able to like loop time on itself until Dormammu uh, gives up, essentially, or until he can strike a bargain with this infinite darkness character. And then I say, I think something or someone, i.e., Satan, has been trying to use whatever means it can to stop the kingdom of heaven from actually existing in reality. And then he asks, have you seen the theory that Elon Musk posts on 4chan LARPing as the, or not LARPing, as the Antichrist? And yes, 100% I agree with you. Then I said, I think Golden Dawn is the name of a secret society. The name Jamie Flux has meaning in my reality. Again, the whole Jamie Mazur character. Um, and his brother Trent Mazur. I don't know if they're brothers or gay lovers or both, but whatever it is, they are have inherently put themselves adversarial to me. They are ethnically Ashkenazi Jewish. I think by their name, it just matches what it says in Revelation. Um, I think we're about to enter a time looping bizarro world, and I think that's maybe what the 3.5 years are in Revelation. Is that's how this character? It's like almost inverted. That's how this character, this Satan character, keeps the thing going, and he has a mark of the beast that is like snaking away resources during that time period. It's not using money. It's using like it's basically a bet, in a bet in the sense like, hey, we bet this Satan character beats Matt, me, the guy on the throne of Yahweh, or we bet that he beats Jesus or that he beats God or Yahweh and that he is God, right? And so they're placing a bet, and if they bet that way, they get a mark that, like, you know, essentially they're operating out of that form of reality. And I've said on their forehead or on their right hand. And when I think it says forehead, I've brought up numerous times where it, like, you might be able to see something now that I can see people are like marked on the face, where a lot of people are super right-eyed or super left-eyed, but like Trump has all of a sudden become a bit left-eyed, and I think it has something to do with people's neurology or like whatever. But as we're going into a timeline, like I'm saying, where there's really only two options. It no longer is there's a bajillion options on the table for what reality is. It's Yahweh and Jesus and going to the kingdom of heaven, and then anything else. Now, that's always what it's been, but it becomes evidently clear because if you're going anywhere else, you have the mark of the beast, and if you're going towards the kingdom of heaven, you're sealed with the spirit of Yahweh, which is, I think, like the mark of Yahweh, essentially, the mark of Jesus. It's not a mark of the beast. It's like you are sealed with the spirit and protected during, well, maybe not protected, but you're going the right direction, and if you die, you'll be in the kingdom of heaven regardless. And if you're in the tent of testimony with me and protected in the tent of testimony, which I'm assuming is here in Houston because so many illegal actions have been taken against me using the American government and municipal government, the state government, like, again, government in and of itself falls on my shoulders, as it describes in Isaiah about Jesus, and then Jesus is handing that off to me as far as the American government, because he has power over all the governments by the end. You know what I mean? And if I'm on the throne with him and like have his name on me and blah 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 blah, we're pretty indistinguishable at that point. But I'm still me with that authority, at least in this part of the timeline. And then I said I haven't seen the Elon Musk LARPing as on 4chan thing, but I have made videos like this, and I shared the Donald Trump false beast, Donald Trump the beast, and Elon Musk the false prophet thing. And Joel says, where people literally turn into lightning and zap to different dimensions. I think that's the time looping bizarro world that he's talking about. Um, and that just sounds like, I don't know, all sorts of stuff in science fiction or anime or whatever. So, and then I say, I think all the presidents have been heads of the seven-headed beast from the sea. Joel was a fan of Trump in his first term. I don't know how he feels now because I haven't talked to him a lot recently. In the past, even, I would say, even in the past like 3 or 2 at least years, but 3 to 2 years when I've been doing the lightning stuff, uh, we haven't been like talking as much. Mostly because it seemed like he didn't believe me, and it's like I don't know who I can trust, so I don't know if I can really trust Joel. But I'm at a point, and this is how I've felt for a while too. It's like I can't trust nobody, in the sense of like I can maybe not trust Joel completely, but like I can be like, all right, look, if you're someone who can be trusted, this is what I think. If you're not, it's not going to matter, and I'm still going to win. So in any instance, I'm going to like talk to you and communicate with you. But like, if you're against me, you're really close to the thing that's going to throw people into burning lake, and that was the threat 7 years ago, and that is still the threat. If you are not my enemy, you literally have nothing to worry about. It is only contingent on what you're doing and have done. If you haven't done something bad, even if you're wrong about stuff, like I'm saying something and you're wrong about it, change your mind. We'll go to that place. I don't think we're. It doesn't seem like our minds are that far off on these concepts either. It's just like who has the final authority, and I think the idea is the final authority rests on the guy who's most biblically connected. And I think that's me because I'm the one who's most biblically connected of the two of us. But I don't think that means he has no authority. I think it just means like if I'm the emperor, he's like a one of the saints of the Most High. Like if I'm the guy on the throne, the king of the saints of the Most High, right? If I'm on the throne with Jesus, anybody who's a saint is like elevated way beyond normal people, and we're gonna go to a place. And one of the reasons is I don't change my mind on things, right? Unless you can present the evidence. And particularly, I've been on this seven churches thing for over 7 years now, and like I've had to convince people of its veracity as like what it's even saying, and like people still don't want to engage it because it's just like, well, then that gives me the authority. It essentially gives me the authority of Christianity. Like I am the Pope. You know what I mean? But it's not like a thing where, because a lot of this academic and science stuff and knowledge stuff, like the realm that Joel's in, is like ego versus ego. Well, I'm smarter than you and I'm whatever. I am not more in the least intelligent than Joel by academic standards. However, when I was younger, all these concepts were things that I was thinking about. I might have even been going to these different realms and stuff. Like I can remember a time period where I used to, if this, whether you believe this or not, I would open a door and go behind a place and I'd be in a different. It's almost like the Matrix, where like they open doors and the door doesn't go to like where it goes. It like opens up a place to a new place. Like I would go wherever and be the Monkey King for a while, and then I would come back and be Matt. You know what I mean? And I'm just a kid here and whatever. But in the places that I would go, I was like the Monkey King. Or, that's a great way to describe it because I wouldn't quite Yahweh God, but I'm definitely more advanced and powerful than your average person. And I also had understanding that I think I lost because I think something had to like prevent, like whatever wherever I had dominion or domain, uh, has to be protected from like this Satan character. So and then okay, I said Joel says I think based on looking at Jamie Flux likely in ASI's technologies, I and I think that's in response to I think the Golden Dawn is the name of the secret society thing. I think that based on looking at Jamie Flux likely in ASI's technology, I can't speak as much to the eschatological signs, but from the technology side and current events, that's what I see unfolding. And that's what I'm saying is like I'm the guy that connects him to where like you're protected in the tent of testimony where people have done super evil shit to me and like people are willing to kill and like multi burn down a community and deal $250 billion worth of damage to California because the people in that community have literally attacked me in the most rapist, evil fashion that they possibly fucking could. And that's where Alessandra Ambrosia lives, and that's where her friends live, and that's where like this hive of evil is coming out of around Hollywood. And even the NASA JPL is there, so I guess NASA could be participating too. And they think like, you know, like attacking me is like what they're doing, what NASA's most advanced stuff is doing now, because I'm the guy on the throne of Yahweh, and like in my domain, it's like the upside down or something. But it's just the way a bunch of fucking humans who are acting really fucking evil are trying to snake away power from God, and I'm the in between like mediary because I'm the guy who gets to sit on the throne because of what I've gone through, and I'm not being that kind of evil, shitty, rapist, fucking evil person. Let me repeat how evil they have to be to do this. And it's not that I'm not evil at all, because all humans are. There's none good but God, as Jesus says. But I think the idea is if I get to be on the throne, whatever evil I'm doing is probably judicially validated by Yahweh, and it's not like, you know, it's not like evil done to a criminal is called justice. You know what I mean? That's how our justice system works. When death is applied on a criminal who's killed people, it's called capital punishment, right? Because they've committed capital murder or something like that. It isn't considered an evil, it's considered justice. However, you get to the point where at a higher level you can twist what these concepts mean. So like, to the people supporting Palestine, October 7th was like freedom fighters doing revolutionary stuff, even though they beheaded babies and did just evil atrocities. To anybody supporting Israel, or like the rule of law essentially in the Western world, what happened on October 7th is a terrorist attack by a bunch of Muslim extremists who are like, you know, they are not going through a genocide and blah 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 blah. I mean, it's like, and it's not so completely black and white to most. Some people believe like, well, they're going through a genocide, but what they did isn't the way to go about it, and blah blah blah. So I'm not going to get into that. But my whole point is that like, well, evil applied in like a lawful way is called justice. Um, like the evil of putting death on somebody that has killed someone, or a rapist, or a like a serial rapist, or whatever. Kidnapping someone and putting them in a cell is called justice. Is called the justice system here in America. So you do have to have kind of rule of law. But I think by the end of the Book of Revelation stuff, Yahweh doesn't even fuck around with that anymore. If you're going to exist, you're going to follow him. If you're not going to follow him, you're going to be in the infinite burning torture. If you're not in the infinite burning torture, you're in the kingdom of heaven. Everything's provided for. There's no reason to be a fucking criminal. There's more than enough resources for everybody, and you live into infinity. And so there's not a rush to there's not a rush and a race to the bottom in a zero-sum game. It's like there's more than enough, infinitely more than enough for everybody. And there is an ultimate justice source and an ultimate person at the highest level who can decide this, that, or the other. One of the reasons why I think the guy in Revelation 19, it says he's a judge with integrity and a warrior for justice. And I think the idea is I'm given the power, even in the American system, the United States system, of a Supreme Court judge, the power of a president, and the power of the legislative body to just act essentially as a sovereign here in America and in Texas, which there are sovereigns in other countries, and one of the ways that they're kind of winning is that they're able to attack into America long term, whereas like the presidents and stuff go away every 4 years. You know what I mean? Or every 8 years. And there's a new regime and a new way of doing things and a new whatever. Whereas these people for the past 40 or 50 years have been doing the same shit trying to take over America. You know what I mean? And it's like you need some kind of protective system here in America, but once you do that, that person has so much fucking power. They probably look like some form of deity. And so I'm assuming that's what's going on at the end of the Bible and whatever. Like I think the Bible is partially a shield to whatever people are doing attacking into the country. Except there's a rebellion here in America using the Nicolaitans, which are a bunch of celebrity and elites that are trying to steal away that power, and they're willing to almost give in to that other system, which isn't good for them, but it's exactly like the Queers for Palestine thing. It's like, well, they aren't thinking logically. They're just thinking short-term monetary gain or some bullshit like that. They aren't thinking rationally, really. Okay, anyway, so I said, sounds about right to me. Joel said vortex propulsion systems is basically the UAP phenomena, except those are plasma vortices. I put a flying saucer. Joel said OpenAI seems evil as fuck to me. And then I said, I think somebody killed Suchar Balaji, who's the AI whistleblower who died, last year or 2 years ago, connected to OpenAI. So I said, so yeah, probably his death was just ruled a suicide. But like I'm saying, San Francisco PD walked into his apartment and spent 14 minutes and decided it was a suicide. And it's just like the evidence from the pictures that I've seen, it seems like that there's no way they, you know what I mean? Like OpenAI is like represents a lot of money to the San Francisco ecosystem, which is losing a lot of money. So I mean, I think it's not that hard for uh, a city ruled by tech bros to like, if one guy is going to be the whistleblower in that city, that they're going to clamp down on him or kill him or something. And I think maybe that something did thought that they would do that to me here in Houston with Detective Nick Vo lying with these women or whatever, and they're me being thrown in jail and almost 7 years ago now. And except when they did it to me, earthquake, like basically massive earth upheaval started happening. And I think there's also a threat that since it's relatively public, people will murder. I mean, not murder. I think it's a form of like self defense, but people will kill for like, hey, this guy is already shown he's like connected to God, and you guys are acting illegally. If he figures out that he has kids and whatever and is able to prove it publicly, y'all are fucking done anyway. But like, you know what I mean? So like, I think it's something kind of like that. Anyway, Joel then shared this, and again, both by Jamie Flux, talking about genetic modification, machine learning integration, genetic engineering, Genesis protocol, blah blah blah, next generation. My guess is like, I don't know, is Alessandra going to bring Jamie Mazur back or Trent Mazur, and she's going to have kids with him, or maybe she already has kids with Trent or Jamie or whatever bullshit is. I don't know. I was thinking maybe Buck Palmer would be the guy, but he might be too high. Like it would be too connected to. You could then prove the connection between him and Trump. If that kid is Trump's grandkid, then there's probably some issue. But if it's with this Jamie Mazur kid, or Jamie Mazur's kid, or I don't know, some bullshit like that, they can kind of, it's like less directly connected to him. And you know anyway, look at the covers of those two, or I don't know, it could be Joel. Jamie Mazur and Joel share the same JM is their initials, so I don't know if that's some kind of thing. And then Trent Mazur's is TM, like a trademark or like a intellectual property rights. Because if I figure this out, I get the TM on everything, something like that. I don't know. This is just guesses, observations. Look at the covers, and so this is why I'm like, I don't know, Joel my enemy, Joel my friend. I don't know yet. I mean, so I assume he's my friend, but like I also assume, well, he could have behind the scenes different, he might not be as friendly as whatever. Then look at the covers of these two. They're both about making an AI engineered virus to alter the human consciousness and merge it with an AI, or at least that's what I understand it as. The Chimera one says the AI can look at virus genetic code and guess how it will alter the phenotype of the affected. And I said Mark the Beast type stuff, and then he said, yeah, spooky shit. And I sent him the pictures comparing Anja Ambrosio and I, and Noah Ambrosio and I. And he said, and I go, do these kids look like me? And he goes, I can kind of see it in the nose on the first one. So Anja's nose, ironically, Noah's nose looks exactly like mine, but he sees it in Anja's nose. Okay, I see it in both their noses, but like Noah's nose looks exactly like mine and doesn't look at all like, it looks a little bit like Alessandra's, but like, damn if these kids don't look more like me than they do Alessandra, in my opinion. Like Anja looks a bit like they look like both of us. It's just like I look like a combination of both my parents, not just one of them. Whereas a lot of times kids look like just one parent or the other. You know what I mean? Whereas I think like both of them look a lot like me. But I don't know. Are they my kids? Anyway, he goes, I can kind of see it in the nose on the first one, but I don't know, dude. Who are these kids? And I said, I believe they're my biological children. And I sent him the genetic face match stuff. And he goes, I mean, where did you find them? And then he sent me this passenger on the Delta plane crash that happened today. I haven't really gone through Twitter because I've been dealing with this. The company made by Tom DeLong and Hal Puthoff for UFO disclosure. I don't actually know if that's what this shirt is connected to, because there's other things that are connected to the stars, but um, you know, I think that could be connected because the whole Travis Barker thing and like celebrities and musicians like doing some kind of rebellion thing, like from the Power Man 5000 song "Tonight the Stars Revolt," except that was like in 2000 or something, so that was a while ago. So anyway, And then he goes, "Where did you find them?" And I said, "They're the kids of one of the women who I've been saying has been gang stalking me for a long time." Interestingly enough, the guy who this woman used to pretend that he is these kids' fathers is named Jamie. That's what I'm saying. Jamie Mazur, Jamie Flux, right? And also, in 5 hours, it will be exactly 2,520 days from when Jamie Mazur and Alessandra officially broke up. Yet, my whole point is, he's still in the kids' lives. Like, he's attending their birthdays and stuff like that. I think, the whole point is he's still behind a lot of this shit because I think he's being used by either an American intelligence service or a foreign intelligence service like the Mossad, and that this is partially what the whole synagogue of Satan, those who claim to be Jews but are not thing is, because you can't be attacking the guy on the throne. You can't be attacking Jesus or the guy on the throne of Jesus. You have to believe in Jesus these days. Like a messianic Jew is a Jew. A Jew that believes in Buddha is not a Jew. Once like you are out of the tribe of, you know what I mean, like ethnically maybe, actually like what Jews were, where they believe in Yahweh, and at least you don't even believe in Yahweh, you aren't even pretending to believe in Yahweh at that point. In ancient Israel you would be kicked out of Israel for that. So like, I think that's part of what that means. But again, it could be like Kendrick Lamar did the whole Damn album and Yah, and he's like what's that, um Black Hebrew Israelite thing, and those aren't real Israel. Just like the same thing. It's like, or so you're saying that, it's like all this black empowerment stuff, and it's like it's not going. I didn't go with what history actually is, because it's like, I can understand being black and having like your history stolen from you and being marginalized, but at the same time, don't rewrite history to make yourself less, like, feel more secure about your worth. You're worthy and valuable no matter what, right? Does that make sense? But to Jesus, not to any of these other systems. These other systems, even black empowerment systems, don't give a fuck about you. You think the Nation of Islam gives a fuck about you? You're an idiot. You think black Hebrew Israelites really give a fuck about you? You're an idiot. They give a fuck about putting it to the black man. You know what I mean? If the whole system is built on, I mean, putting it to the white man, if the whole system is built on putting it to the white man or putting it to any man, you are any man. They don't really care about you. They're just angry and whatever. I mean, like, I care about what Jesus cares about. Jesus cares about uh, people. Jesus is not anti-white, anti-black, anti-Asian, anti-anything. He is what the whole tribes of the world, everybody should fall under. So, um, okay, and then this other thing is, the other day I shared those same pictures with Emilio before we went and saw, or after we went and saw Captain America, and he goes, "Who is the mama?" Because I told him I think I have kids. I even recorded the part of the video, but so I sent him this, and I guess he clued in pretty quick who is the mama. So I think he realizes what I'm saying, and I think it's significantly more obvious than they're saying. My whole point is, I think I look exactly like these kids, or I mean, they look exactly like me. They look like my kids. And I don't know if Emilio has done something evil. Maybe he has kids in secret with some of these women, or Alessandra, or whatever, Adriana Lima, or some bullshit like that. And he's like a Satan-like character, or Joel is, or whatever. Because part of the thing that Alessandra has done is, like, they were at Holbox on vacation, which is a place in like Mexico, and then I look at Emilio's pictures, and either right before or right afterwards, he was there. Now, I also understand if you have enough power and resources and like can spy on people, you're trying to like fuck with my head and get me to go against my friends, you might do something like that so that I think you're working with them in order to, confuse me. So I'm not unaware of that kind of mentalism and trickery. But it does seem strange. It's like, in the same way, well, Joel was in Las Vegas at the exact same time Alessandra was in Las Vegas, based on, I know he went to Vegas and then she was posting pictures from Vegas. Now, whether the timelines actually matched up, I don't know. But my point is, it seems like something is trying to get me to go against my friends, else they aren't my friends and they really are participating with these women. And this is exactly why you got really close to me. Congrats, but really close to me means you get really thrown in the burning lake. So, I'm not going to forgive people who are raping me through these, or raping me and my kids, and who've bred me and are working with these women. This woman is Jezebel. It's while Yahweh says that certain people are given chances to repent. I mean, he says he's given Jezebel a chance to repent. She doesn't choose to. In the same way, I don't think the men like Jamie Mazur, or if any of my friends are participating, I don't think you've chosen to repent. I think you've chosen the burning lake, and I'm happy to see you go in there if you've done something evil. If not, don't worry about it. I'm not just like arbitrarily saying, even when I was telling Joel, like, you should be thrown in the burning lake 7 years ago, my whole point with that was, well, they were doing that shit where it's like Stephanie Justin was trying to make it seem like Stephanie Justin and these other women that were, are participating seemed as though they were trying to make me feel like my friends were participating actively in whatever this gang stalking and harassment and using women to like belittle me and disempower me thing was. And it's like, well, for the sake of myself and survival and the kingdom of heaven, this is what will happen to you. Burning lake. But I'm not arbitrarily throwing people into a burning lake, especially if they haven't done actually anything. You know what I mean? So just, that's my point. That's been my point. So he goes, who is the mom? And I said, first, they clearly look like me. Do you agree? And then it took him 2 days. I sent that on Saturday. So then I just today, after talking to Joel, I was like, well, might as well message, what do you think? And he goes, I don't think it's a cut and dry case. And it's like, he goes, a little similar, but probably not conclusive to me. And I just laughed that off because it's like, this is why I'm like, you're bullshitting. You have to know that this has happened, and you are either participating or have done something wrong. There's no way you look at these kids and go, oh, they're a little similar. This kid's nose looks exactly like mine. His nose isn't going to be exactly as big because he's 12. But I mean, you know what I mean? My nose isn't exactly as big, nor does it exactly match my dad's. But, if I sent more pictures, it's like, at every age, he looks like me. At multiple ages, she looks like me, and she looks like she's growing up to look a lot like me, which is one of the reasons why I think she would be an effective tool against me or a blessing for me. Is like, oh, it's a teenage girl that looks exactly like me. I'm in love. Oh, she's my daughter. I'm still in love. She's my daughter. I love my daughter. You know what I mean? I love my kids, but like, if they're just tools to abuse me and they're going against me themselves, that's why I think their Jezebel thing says her children die. It doesn't say your children die. It says her children. But some woman could be using Alessandra. I don't know, Kim Kardashian, Beyonce, some queen somewhere, Stephanie Justin. I don't know. But like, whatever it is, something's going on. It's a rebellion in secret, and these people are either, this is like my dream come true or a nightmare. Either way, I'm wrapping this shit up, and people are getting thrown into a burning lake eventually, and it ain't that far off. 7 years at most, probably. 7 years from whenever the tribulation starts, with which I I am positive the tribulation starts in like sometime in the next 7 years, if it hadn't already. So that is my uh thing. And I think it's a 3.5 year period. So like sometime in the next 7 years is the 3.5 year period, if we aren't already in it, and I'm being protected because tent of testimony thing. So, and it's the idea, well, can you figure out what is actually going on when everybody and everything is lying to you, or at least not giving you the whole truth? It looks like I can, because I don't believe anything I see these days. Certainly not the news, certainly not even what my friends are telling me. But, they could be fooled too. So, um, anyway, so that's where we are with this. I sent him these things. It shows we're a match. We'll see how he responds. But, like, it's like, you're fucked. If you're lying, you're fucked. If you just don't know, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? If you're like, because it is like a pretty far-fetched thing that I'm saying, but goddamn, if these kids do not look exactly like me. And it's one of the reasons why I didn't say they're Alessandro Ambrogio's kids. Because then that's a way he can be like, oh, you're crazy. You know what I mean? And you have mental health issues, and that's a way here in America that has already been used against me to like hurt me illegally, because they knew it wasn't the truth, but they can make the claim and put it on legal forms, and there's power in it. And so, like, I'm not unaware of that. But if he goes, yeah, they look like you, before I say, yeah, they're Alessandro Ambrosio's kids, they don't look, I mean, they look like a combination of me and Alessandro Ambrosio, and they do not look like Jamie Mazur, who is their purported father. He looks kind of like me, but they don't look like him more than they look like me. Anja looks a little more like him, maybe, than Noah does. Again, they look like me, and he looks like me. So that's one of the things. But I don't think that I like Noah looks considerably more. Noah doesn't look like him. Noah looks like me. Um, Anja looks like me, but the features that make Anja look like me are similar enough to him. But I don't think he's their actual father. I think I'm their biological father. And so if Emilio goes, yes, they look like you, and then I explain they're Alessandro Ambrosio's kids, then it's a lot. It's like easy for him to go, oh, that's crazy. They aren't your kids. If I say Alessandro Ambrosio, but if I and if he's already aware because he's watching my YouTube videos, then all of the other narrative that's connected to it, the lightning, the fucking uh crazy weather events that's been happening, the like their essentially their neighborhood and schools burning down, all this stuff. There's a lot of weight behind that narrative, which is one of the reasons why I think people wouldn't want to engage it. That's even why when the person's like you're shadow banned or whatever, it's like people just don't want to engage that this is what is going on. And so they like pretend it's not happening. But the more and more the events play out exactly like Revelation says, and like there isn't a better explanation than what I'm providing, then it just points to what I'm saying is valid. So we'll see what they both say. Uh, I don't really care, and I'm not being threatening to them, and I'm not being like they could even say I'm crazy, but like in America, you are legally allowed to have weird, far fetched ideas, and that's protected speech. What isn't protected speech is like threatening violence against people. So I'm not doing that, right? That has already been done. Essentially, I've already said 7 years ago, and I already paid the time for that crime, even though it's not a crime if I'm actually being harassed and under, essentially assault by some kind of mental siege engine. You already know what the game is. If you get caught on that side, you are getting thrown into infinite burning torture. Probably we're at the point where people are willing to pull up to your house and burn it down while you're alive. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Burn it down with you inside. But like, I'm not threatening that or saying that. That is kind of my point. Is like it's what it looks like happened to me in the Palisades. That there's a covert war going on, and here in America for like power over America, and you know, I'm intricately involved because of what the government has done to me, or what people connected to the government has done, or what the government in the least has allowed. So to happen to me, or maybe what foreign governments have done to me. Because like my kids are literally, if Dylan and Liam Ambrosio are my kids, I have kids with a woman who isn't an American citizen. She's a Brazilian citizen. Alessandra Ambrosio just became an American citizen in 2020. Her sister, Alina Ambrosio, is not an American citizen that I know of, though maybe she lived in Dallas or something. Someone in her family, someone in the Ambrosio family lives in Dallas, which is also like, looks like maybe UT Dallas or it's some kind of city against city attack here in Texas, and I already won that a while back. Um, and so therefore Houston already won that a while back. And then Fernanda Mota is like, no, I don't think she's an American citizen at all. So you know what I'm saying? Like Brazilian citizens having done this to me, it would give me even some like social authority in Brazil that probably presidents don't have, that probably Lula doesn't even have. And if the governments in Brazil called this, you know, governments breeding people to like as some form of covert rape attack, that would be the end of any government on the planet if that came out publicly. You know what I mean? So in America, I'm saying, okay, well, this is what I think. People took hold of the American machine. I'm taking it back. I'm taking all the powers of the judiciary, legislative, and executive branches, wrapping it into one thing, and being an American sovereign. Those things can still operate, but I'm going to have overriding supreme authority here in the United States of America and in Texas and in Houston. And probably anywhere in the world, because once you have that kind of character, they're going to have so much authority in the entire world, especially with what other places in the world have done to me and all the people that I'm connected to through the internet and through whatever. So, um, anything else I want to add? Nothing. So I'm gonna end this video here, and like I said, this is not gonna be a public video on my YouTube, but I am gonna post it. I mean, I'm gonna upload it because I want to have like a good record, and if something happens with Emilio and Joel where they are doing some evil shit behind the scenes, it's like, well, look, I'm clearly aware of something, and I've said this in a lot of videos for the past several years, and I've clearly been thinking that you guys could be against me, but if you're not, hey, wake the fuck up. If I have kids, it means my statements are considerably more fucking valid. If I have kids that, like with Joel, Andre Ambrosio would have been already conceived the entire time I've known Joel. Like literally, I've had her as my child longer than I've known Joel. He in fact only came into my reality around the time she was conceived, which is also one of these things when he's sending me this Jamie Flux stuff. It's like, did you participate? Is this some kind of rice rape thing? Like, I feel like universities are being given authority to do evil stuff, just like I'm talking about NASA. So, are they giving things, American institutions, kind of like covert authority to attack me? And like, if they can hide it, then they can do it, and if they can't, then there's plausible deniability. But if I'm able to connect everything together, and I am the guy on the throne of Yahweh, and this is the Book of Revelation time, which it goddamn looks like, with based on what's going on in Israel, then you've lost, I've won, and like it is only a C4. It's like in Counter Strike where the bomb has already been planted, the C4 has already been planted, and the code's already been put, and you have to come and defuse it, and you ain't defusing it with Yahweh watching with an op. You know what I'm saying? Like Yahweh, you got a 5 stack, and you got a clutch against a professional, the number one professional team, and Yahweh is all of them, and you aren't going to do that. You know what I mean? Like it is guaranteed this is going to go off, right? So, and if that's the case, you are fucked beyond all recognition. But if you aren't doing evil stuff, or if you have and you repent of it, you know, then the whole thing falls, and this is where it comes out publicly, and then this is where the revelation stuff starts. So it's like, I disclosure on my part and explaining what's going on with me and showing what's going on here is like valuable to me. I don't want to show like private conversations with people, but at the same time, I mean his is under like Joel's statements is what they locked me up and threw me in a mental hospital over. And which is one of the things that like really spiraled my life in a way that it was wrong and evil. But also, certain things like him telling me about Ethereum and like I already knew about Bitcoin and stuff. Like I thought it was a good idea to invest in Ethereum, so I did, and that's how I've been kind of sustaining myself. So there's like I don't know if he's just unaware or if he's malicious. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because he's shown me enough as a person that he could be unaware, and like it's a hard reality. This is like really the red pill which I'm giving out. Like this isn't like it's the red pill. No, like this is the red pill. Oh, I've been bred by a bunch of celebrity women and they're like raping my children. There's a cabal of pedophiles. Like Jeffrey Epstein is probably directly connected to me, which is why they threw me in prison, then threw me in jail, and then him in jail, and they killed him in jail, maybe as a message to me or someone. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, or the Jews or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? And by the Jews, I mean the synagogue of Satan, those who claim to be Jews but are not. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about every Jew on the planet. Particularly and especially, I'm not talking about Messianic Jews. So, if you believe in Jesus, probably what I'm saying is at least like somewhat believable. Like, yeah, there's a Satan character. He's evil. They do evil things. I'm sure Satan can be really evil. There is a thing that says in Revelation, like the deep things of Satan at the fourth church. I think these are, what I'm describing is the deep things of Satan. Like, oh, taking your kids, or like breeding you without your permission, abusing your kids, having other men raise your kids, abusing your kids, like uh, maybe selling your kids' sexuality to the highest bidder, like in a perversion. I've already talked about having a sexual marketplace, but like the parents have to be on board, the kids have to be on board. You know what I mean? Like there has to be like an agreement and a societal agreement. It can't be something done in secret in order to hurt me or to be like psychologically difficult to bear so that I kill myself. It's like you can't do it like that. And no, I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not threatening violence against myself or others. You know what I'm saying? I'm describing the situation that I seem to find myself in. And I'll also say this: seemingly, I just see Europe collapsing more and more every day, and like looks like it's collapsing to Islam and collapsing to communism, and like you know what I mean? Where like maybe not collapsing, but like I just see a bad trend. Like in David Wood not being allowed to go to England or something. I just saw something about that, and like seeing that sharing a factual statistic based graph in Germany got a woman who's like a high ranking, like a higher member level maybe of parliament or of like the AFD party, at least the like what they call the far right wing party, which is, I think it's crazy to say, is that party run by a lesbian? You're saying she's far right? Like what the that's things have just gotten so weird. It's like, you know what I'm saying? But the fact that sharing a graph with fact backed by statistics about, immigrants raping at a 40 to 70 times level than Germans are raping people, is like basically gang. I mean, basically, rape by immigrants is like you are considerably like 70 times, 40 to 70 times more likely to be raped by certain immigrant groups in Germany. And sharing that statistic on a graph where it's like it's a statistic is somehow finable because free speech. Even the 60 Minutes just did a thing about free speech in Germany. So I just see, basically, I see the way the world is going is like it looks like it's headed straight to what it says in the Book of Revelation. And I think one of the reasons I'm able to speak as freely as I am, I think people are willing to fight for what I'm saying because of how wrong and evil and moreover illegal the things that have been done to me by the legal system here in the United States is. Things that, if brought out into public, would be so scandalous, probably those systems would lose power. So, there is like some kind of covert war to like, I don't know, some kind of covert war going on. And so I'm just explaining what I think is going on and the different aspects of it. And I'm gonna share with Joel the Golden Dawn thing, and I'll share more pictures of and with Emilio share more pictures of Anja No Ambrosio that I've made, where it's like comparisons of me and them, and then we'll see what they say. But currently, they're acting in a way that I'm like, these kids look a lot like me. I know what I'm saying is a difficult pill to swallow, that I have almost adult children, or at least Anja's like a year and a half away from being a legal adult. That's longer than I've known Joel. You know what I mean? Or in the least, like she would have been conceived right before I met Joel, which is also kind of. But it could be a thing where he could be my backup in this. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. Yahweh knows, and you aren't going to sneak it around Yahweh. He can pull a rabbit out of a hat at any point. You know what I mean? So to speak. You know what I mean? The turn of phrase. But it looks like I pulled myself out of a hat, and I'm a rabbit, and I've had a bunch of kids, and that's my rabbit out of a hat. But anyway, all right. Maybe I'm also a fox here too. So I guess we'll see. But because the thing from Ghost in the Shell, never send a rabbit to kill a fox or something. Anyway, all right. Well, I hope that was informative and explanatory and is revelatory and is making sense of my reality as I see it and stuff. And I'm gonna go get some food and try to start my day. and I mean start my day actually, and like catch up with the news, and then do some music stuff, and then do a workout, and then go to sleep, and then wake up and do it again. But I think you know what I mean. Like I've already said this. I think the Mazur family is fucked. I think a bunch of them are gonna die this year. So just FYI. I don't even know if Alessandra Ambrosio makes it to the end of the year, because I think the tribulation partially starts with her. Like she dies like right as the tribulation is starting. That's one of my guess. I say Alessandra Jezebel dies, but I think she just seems like the best candidate to me. Anyway, all right. Have a blessed one. I'll catch you next time. Unless they're my kids. I mean, unless they're friendly to me, and in that case, why aren't you here? So that's they're not here, so I don't think they're friendly. Anyway, have a blessed one. I'll catch you next time. Uh, yeah. All right. There could be circumstances as to why they're not here. Later. Yeah.